How do I recreate what I had before? No, that is not the challenge. That is not the assignment. It is how can you innovate? How can you make your processes better to work for you as you want to work?
Welcome to the Innovation Forge. In today's episode, I have visiting artisans Cody Gray, Christopher Kwan, and Katie Jordan. Let's see how innovation meets artistry as we forge something extraordinary together.
You are listening to the Innovation Forge, the #1 podcast on adaptive enrollment management, exploring the data, marketing, and strategy that fuels higher education. Here's your host, David Dysart.
Hello, Guilders, and welcome to the Innovation Forge. I am your host, David Dysart, and I am thrilled that you are joining me on this journey into the innovative world of higher education and adaptive enrollment management. What happens when three Slate superstars sit down to chat about innovation, problem solving, and Shrek Crocs? Well, I think it's pure magic. In this episode, I talk with Katie Jordan, Cody Gray, and Christopher Kwan to talk about how they push creative boundaries in Slate. From their unconventional career paths to their favorite Slate hacks, this trio shares how they've leveraged innovation, collaboration, and the power of community to shape better processes for institutions. Whether it's building real-time auctions in Slate, planning a wedding, or creating the ultimate pumpkin beer tasting experience, their stories prove that no idea is too big or too bizarre to bring to life. Let's see how this conversation took shape. Katie Jordan is the Senior Director of Slate Strategies with Parish Group. She's been in the Slate community for 10 years and has 10 official presentations through Technolutions as of the recording, but we'll, I'm sure, talk more about some new additions today. Katie is also the co-leader of the New England Slate User Group. Cody Gray is Product Manager Lead at Technolutions. He has been with Technolutions for 6 years, but working in Slate for nearly 12 years. Cody's position is rooted in the community and in innovation. He is the chair of the Slate Content Committee and lover of true crime podcasts. Christopher Kwan is a senior client support engineer at Technolutions. He has worked at Technolutions for 4.5 years and almost 11 years working in Slate. He came from a peer admission counselor background and is very passionate about supporting the regular Slate user, and he loves dachshunds. Hi, how are you all doing today?
I think we're good. We're
Pretty good.
Yeah. Excited to be here.
Thank
Excited
you for
hot
having
chicken.
us. I wasn't sure you were going to take me up on this offer, and then it just ballooned.
No, I'm like, oh my god, I have a celebrity who wants to be on my podcast? This is a great.
I appreciate you calling me a celebrity. I would not refer to
I
myself
think
as
anyone would call you a celebrity, Cody. Like, people
I
still talk
call
about your tugs.
Katie a celebrity.
Eh,
Everyone
know.
knows Katie.
I have 3 bona fide celebrities on my podcast right now, so I will hear no argument against that. And I think everyone who could possibly listen to this would 100% agree. There would be no debate as to if the 3 of you are celebrities.
I just have this on my desk all the time.
Oh
I have
goodness.
other stuff from
For
Wait,
Katie.
those
is
who
that
are
your
listening, I
coaster?
feel like you should
Oh my
explain.
gosh.
This is a coaster.
This is okay.
could
I'm
elaborate
having the
slightly.
best day.
Katie Jordan made this once upon a time, and she was giving them out at Summit. Oddly enough, I didn't get it from Katie Jordan because I didn't see her at that point in time at Summit. I don't know where she was, probably presenting
don't
her
know either.
gazillionth session.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I picked it up from her table. And then I also have Katie's just permanently in my life right now because I also have this.
Oh my gosh. They're all in arm's reach.
It's
Yeah,
sort of
they're
like
right
a
here.
needlepoint. Is that needlepoint? Is that
It's
what that art
cross
form?
stitch.
Same thing.
Yeah.
No, please don't hate me, needlepoint/cross stitching people. It is a cross stitch that says Christopher from Technolutions here because that is just
Who I am.
Chris is.
That's the catchphrase.
Yeah.
I always forget, so I have to always retroactively add in that I am from Technolutions.
Mm-hmm.
I have my little Katie shrine right over here.
So is there
A
a
brand new
black
sentence.
market for people to get Katie Jordan exclusives? Or
Oh
this
my
is
gracious. It's just ask politely or, comment on Facebook 10,000 times, Christopher from Technolutions here. So
I was just
Okay.
looking behind me to see if I actually have anything from Katie Jordan near me, and I don't because I
Wow.
have a Christmas ornament from her that is also cross stitched, but it is currently in my Christmas stuff box that lives in the basement, and I don't go down there. It's
I
creepy.
I will
Mhm.
say my kids sleep with handmade items from Katie Jordan every night.
Oh my gosh.
So Katie has made it into my family, and she's just permanently part of it until they get destroyed. But yeah.
I am thrilled to be able to provide such loved gifts for my loved ones.
So I'm guessing that people listening can probably make this assumption, but you all have an interesting origin story. How did you all meet each other?
So
Cody.
strangely, we never met at the same time. Like, we did not meet at the same time or interact in the same ways.
Hmm.
So I know Chris from obviously from work. Um, but Chris has become one of my really good friends outside of work as well. And he has been keeping me sane on the core content committee for 4 years now. And I couldn't do it without him, so that's great. Katie, so this one actually is
Right.
very
When did we meet?
so at so Katie used to work at Allegheny and I was their program manager back in the day. And so I vaguely knew Katie from that. And then uh Paula Schaefer Riley, who as of this moment is still technically a Technolutions employee, who is on my staff as a product manager, and Katie worked together and they were best friends. And so at Summit, I guess Katie was there and was talking to people, and then my husband invited Katie to our wedding. And I was like, I don't know her, but okay.
Mhm.
Um, as it turns out, it was a great decision. So that's my sort of origins. And then the three of us just exist in the same space. And so,
Mhm. I
uh,
think I just showed up at Cody's house one day and told him we were friends. And that worked spectacularly well.
I
I,
mean, you're
Um,
just one of the girls, so like, I mean,
Katie
exactly.
has
We're just girls.
been to my house many times. She has actually done was it a community conversation or like a dive deeper situation
I did a dive deeper, I think, from your
from
home.
this office, from where I'm sitting right now. Ironically, it was with me, and she was here in my home office while I was in New Haven at the Technolutions office.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great vibe. Chris, I think we met back when community conversations were on Zoom, and I just started one day really, really boldly, like messaging you jokes while you were live presenting to see if you
Oh
would
my
laugh or
gosh.
not,
Oh my gosh.
which I don't
The
recommend.
the only time she's gotten me to like break down and actually start laughing is when she sends me a GIF and a picture
Mhm.
of Crocs, her Shrek Crocs to be specific. And
Uh,
I
yeah,
Are these
I
Shrek
was in
Crocs that you own?
yes,
yes, I own Shrek Crocs.
How
I
have I
was in the
not?
middle of talking, I think about I think it was like liquid markup or something. And I just broke down and I had to stop for like a couple seconds because I was just laughing my head off. It was great. But yeah, no, Katie, you and I, we kind of connected over that. And then we started talking through the Facebook group as well. And then was it two summits, the last summit in Nashville.
2 summers ago.
So 2 summits ago, you, Cody, and Paula were at a bar. And I landed and I was like, Cody, where are you? I need to find my friend. I need to see him. And then Katie was there. I was like, oh, cool. Who's this? And then since then we've been friends. Um, Cody and I though, Cody was part of this friend group at work that I really, really wanted to be part of. He used to have these Friday meetings with the guy who got me into Technolutions, Mike Sass, like
Mhm.
consistently. And I was like, Mike, I need to talk to you about my training. I need to learn more about querying. He's like, oh, sorry, I'm talking to Cody. I'm like, okay, who's this Cody guy? I must know Cody. Fast forward 4.5 years, we're really good friends, and Mike no longer works here. Not because of this, but
you just had to push him out to be better friends with Cody.
I mean, it
I
had to
mean,
happen.
that is the rumor that has circulated, yes. I, of course, cannot speak to that.
That's the joys of
I
NDAs.
also
It's
think it's
fine.
cute to say that Chris and Katie, like, do not go a day without texting each other.
No.
It's true. I think Chris wakes up, I would like 90% of mornings with a thought that I've sent him at, 4 a.m. Pacific time. I'm hearing myself talk and hearing these stories and worrying about my networking skills a little bit. It's unorthodox.
Let's put it this way. I woke up today and there were 19 messages from Katie.
Were they all just pictures of Crocs?
No,
Because
no, surprisingly not.
Were they about Slate even a little bit?
Well, the first one was that you slept well. I mean, so that was good.
I just thought that you wanted to know. Oh my gosh, you're right. And then it's a selfie. This is great. This is
Yeah.
devastating. Um,
Cody and I
what?
used to do that, but not anymore.
Yes, I also, so I'm now looking at my text history with Katie from the past, I don't know, 24 hours.
Oh no.
Um, and a lot of it is just like, we talked about Benedict the Ninth, by the way, fascinating Pope.
Mm,
Then it's like she's showing me screenshots of her email notifications of stuff that I've done.
hmm hmm
And it's like, okay, I'm just living rent free in Katie's head. And
A
then
lot
I
of the times
invited her to dinner on Sunday night.
it's true. I'm excited for that. I will out myself as saying a lot of the times it's Zillow links to things that we could turn into a Slate compound.
Oh,
Oh,
I
oh,
re
oh my God.
Yeah.
You should tell him about the house, our dream home.
Which one?
which one?
One in, what is it? It's in Waterbury.
I love that house. That was
you're not really helping the whole cult perception of
Oh,
Slate,
we're
like, at
definitely
all.
not. We're definitely not. So when I first met Katie and when Chris met Katie, Katie was living in Pennsylvania. She now lives in Connecticut, which is way beneficial for our friendship. But when she was searching for houses, and this is right after I bought my house with my husband, and she was just sending us the craziest listings. And at one point, I think we had a bunch of family over, and we were like, everyone, we have to show you this house. And it was the gaudiest. All the walls were painted black. There was lots of gold accents. It was very intriguing.
it was the tackiest thing I've ever seen. Like the ceilings were painted black and gold. There was an above ground pool shaped to look like an in-ground pool. I believe the toilet was gold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, it was, I think it would have been a really interesting compound home for us.
It
I would
wasn't
also like to note this
practical.
house did not sell.
Mm,
It just
would have
seems
been
like
great.
living in like a music video, and I just don't understand the life
We'll send you
decisions.
the
See,
listing after
Okay,
this.
yep, thank you, thank you.
You
I
can
need
pick
flip
out your
that.
side,
list.
she's sending me listings of like private islands off the coast of Connecticut.
So the Thimble Islands are great, and you
Mhm.
only have to own a boat to get
Yeah,
to and from your
the
house.
house she sent me was $36 million. I don't have $36 million
I
Well,
know.
and a
the
boat.
Waterbury one was much more in budget.
Okay, so I feel like you have questions.
He
Yes.
has more or less now.
I have more, but I have less time, I think, to answer said questions. So, anyways, Slate are originally rooted as an admissions tool, but we're seeing it branch out in all sorts of these really interesting compound directions, whether that be new offices, new tools, new functionality, new islands. Cody, probably best suited for you. How does Slate constantly evolve, pushing creative and even innovative boundaries? You all seem just really nimble on all things.
We have to be. I think we're in a position where we got to where we are because we are so nimble and we are so flexible and responsive. And, every year we ask a question of like, how can we do better than we did the year before? And it seems to be, the pressure's mounting a little bit. But I think a lot of it comes from Alexander himself, our incredible CEO, is a literal genius. And he has such faith in the mission and is always pushing us to explore our creativity and to go further and to really think about our ideas and embrace them and, throw spaghetti at a wall. And sometimes that means stuff sticks. But I think stemming from him, all of the staff at Technolutions are incredibly smart people who are always pushing the boundaries and challenging each other. And, I think that's really the core of how we do it is we're not happy with just where we are. It's where do we want to go? And so like Chris is a great example of this is every year when we do, think about core content and stuff, we use Slate for that. And every single year, Chris is like, what if we did it differently? And I'm like, no.
But yes.
And then we do it differently. Because we're always trying to iterate and innovate and, develop things. And then it's the community. You're constantly all letting us know what you want. And we are taking that and piecing it into different pieces of development that we're doing. Ultimately, all of the work we do is for you. And so y'all keep us inspired and make it really easy to sort of say, all right, let's dream up the next crazy thing. So I think it's the people and it's the motivation and the commitment to the mission of transformational effects on the world of higher education. It's not just a series of fancy words. It's something that we actually truly believe in and march toward.
That was beautiful.
It was.
I think it also really does help that the community is also not shy in sharing their ideas.
Not at all.
What?
Wait, what?
I know, right? What?
I
So,
do love that.
people do always reach out and say, hey, is this thing possible? And, we do have the different teams across Technolutions that do focus on the different life cycles. And so they hear about these things all the time and they're coming up with these new, crazy, wild, fun ideas that, hopefully we can implement and hopefully we can create living examples for. A great example of that was Johnny Grimmer a couple months ago.
Johnny.
He heard some people talking about a counselor hub. And he was like, great, I'm going to build one right now. I'm going to share it with the world. Let's go do it. And so he did that. He did a whole community conversation on it as well. But that stemmed from the community saying, I want to see something like this that exists.
I
So,
think the other part of it is sort of when it comes to the admission space, anyway, everything you could possibly have asked us for, we've more or less done. And, we can always innovate those things and get better at those things, refine those things, which, we should one day. Nobody panic, but I would love to overhaul the reader entirely. It desperately needs attention. But we're not going to do it during a reading season. Everybody can breathe.
I'm immediately like, do you want some ideas?
Katie, you know where to find me, literally. But we've existed in that space for so long, and now we have advancement in student success. And so we really have time to devote a lot of attention to those spaces and give them the love that they need so they can experience sort of the same growth that Slate for Admissions did. And it really, and I keep saying the phrase, and it really helps, but it does help that those teams, those life cycles, are led by really passionate people. You've got Ken, you've got Sean, and their teams are so dedicated and so well oiled that they know exactly what they want and exactly what is going to benefit the lives of not only their current customers but future customers as well. So it's I don't it's hard to explain, but when you see these people at Summit and you work with them and you talk to them, it just becomes so clear that they're really excited and they do want to talk about it. And I always have them pushing me and my team to continue to push things through. We don't move sometimes as quickly as, perhaps they would like, but they're great motivators too.
It feels like the Slate community is an excitable bunch of folks, for sure. I would definitely.
No,
No.
not at all.
So, Katie, you came up through the admission counselor side, became a Slate captain, and then actually moved into the consulting side. How has your approach to using Slate creatively changed in each of these roles? Or how has your mindset actually shaped your approach?
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, so I worked in admissions in, takes on the admissions counselor title for 7 years, really overwhelmingly at Slate schools. The first one implemented before I got there, the second two implemented when I was there. So immediately some creative challenges there. But, it trained my brain to think about Slate from the user side of it in terms of like, okay, I'm going to be on the road for 3 months this year. What do I need to keep me going during that time? I should out myself as having zero background in computer science, engineering, coding, like you name it, psychology major. Really just oh, okay, perfect. I'm getting some thumbs up. I'm getting some nods. I haven't been kicked out yet. Um,
I mean,
but
I studied Russian language, so
History major.
exactly. Perfect. David, what were you?
Psychology.
Ah, see, love it. Love it. So, I think that all of that kind of put it together as I was not setting out to, be a big Slate worker. It clicked in my brain. I just identify as an admissions counselor who is loud these days. So, um, blessing and a curse with being consulting. I feel like I get to see a lot of instances. I get to meet a lot of people. People come up with really cool ways themselves to use Slate, but the hiccup is that I have to build what people are asking me to build, and I don't get all of this free time to play in an instance. So, when I get to implement, when I get to hear from somebody like, "Hey, we're not doing this in Slate, but could we?" That's, I think, when I get to really kind of have at it and really think creatively and picture something new. I love asking people like what doesn't work about this for you right now. Like think about what you don't like. If you do like it, like great, we'll figure out how to make it work. But like what are your pain points? What can we be making better? Um, Going back to like some summit stuff that I've done, like being able to do host matchings in Slate and partly Excel. Thank you to my husband. I just really like to think about how to communicate better with all kinds of different people. So creativity is the birth of what? Innovation. What's that expression? I
Necessity
butchered
is
it
the birth
terribly.
of
Something is the birth of something, and I really stand by that expression.
personal motto.
Yes.
necessity is the mother of invention.
Oh, that's, I think, not what I meant at all.
I don't think you did either, but we're committed now. So
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
too late.
It's official. It's on a podcast, so there's no going back.
Well, I've made up a new expression then, and I don't like it at all.
You just add it to your LinkedIn, let it sit there, kind of really bake in it, and it'll be fine.
Okay, you're right.
Add
I
it
should
to
commit.
every single summit slide you do.
Katie's version.
Yeah.
And just watermark each slide with it. It'll be fine.
Absolutely.
Chris and Cody, how about you? How's your professional journey shaped your approach to using Slate creatively?
I think it's shaped my journey definitely a whole lot because I came from a pure admission counselor background. I wasn't a Slate captain, wasn't a Slate admin, had barely any permissions when I was in missions. And so I remember all the struggles that I had when I worked in admissions with trying to figure out how Slate worked. And I had really supportive Slate captains, Slate administrators who did give me access, who gave me additional resources. Like, hey, you want to do more? We'll give you this. Turns out they never gave me CJs until after I left, but that's another story. But being able to explore different tools and modules that way really did help. But at the same time, going to conferences like NACAC, WACAC, CIVSA, et cetera, when I was in admissions, really did hone in the fact that there are a lot of people who use Slate out there who don't have access to a Slate captain or a Slate admin who has the time to give them what they need, who don't know where the resources are. And so whenever I work in Slate, and whenever I'm trying to build and create something that people can get inspired about, I'm always thinking about what would me 5-6 years ago want to see? What would make me 5-6 years ago go, my day has been made so much more efficient, so much more productive because of this. So, I was a road warrior. I did 16 weeks on the road a year. Counselor travel toolkit, created that with QR codes, daily reports for my territories. I leverage Voyager extensively for that, that sort of thing. Moved on to managing our office inventory, other duties as assigned. Then started dabbling with ticketing, inventory systems, stuff I'm really passionate about right now. So every single thing that I've done, created, put out there into the community is something that I've personally struggled with in my former life. So I'm 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 deeply aware of that whole world, and that's also why I'm still so connected with, especially the Super Slate Technolutions Friends Facebook group, because I see myself in so many people in that group, that people just want the support, but they're not really getting it in their current community. Yeah.
It's almost like something is the birth of something, and that really resonates with you too.
As they say.
Yeah.
As they say.
I think,
As just one of the girls said one time.
Chris, that was beautiful. I like seeing yourself in the. I love that. I'm also all about corny stuff. My journey into Technolutions and Slate is a little bit similar to Chris. I did start out in admissions for a small liberal arts college, implementing Slate in 2012, which was a completely different era of Slate. I remember Slate before the rules editor existed.
Was it
Um,
colorful then? Was that like back in the color slate days?
no, this was in the black and white days, like think about it like the Wizard of Oz, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
And you
know,
rode your dinosaur to slate work both ways and uphill in the snow.
exactly.
This was the day and age where you had to do event landing pages in the file editor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was just a very different time in Slate. And so I was implementing on the undergrad side, we were a shared instance, and I was also helping a lot with the grad implementation. And I was like freshly out of college and didn't really, was like, I don't know what I want to be doing. And so it was really great. It was a really fun experience doing that. And, fun fact, I have never not been an administrator in a Slate database. I feel like I wouldn't know what to do if I was, you know, uh, permissioned. That's not true in the outreach database. I am not an administrator. That's one of our internal databases. But having transitioned to this, I mean, I think again, it goes back to community. I started when I worked at Technolutions in the beginning, I was doing data import and automation requests. And, you're seeing people's pain points and their struggles, and you're seeing the things that are really hard for them. And you're seeing people when they're frustrated at certain things, and you're just like, what can I do to make this easier for you? How can we impact your lives in a positive way? And of course, then I didn't occupy the same role that I do now, so my sort of ability was more limited. And when I became a product manager, it opened my eyes to everything. Like reading feedback is, people sometimes think it's a black hole, and I get that totally, but I promise it's not. You read everyone what they're going through, the good and the bad. You're seeing the creative ways that they're trying to do things, and you're looking at the ways that they're doing things, and you're like, that is crazy. Why are you doing it that way? Um, and you want to make it sound less crazy, and you want it to do the things that it needs to do to help people. And so that's where I come from, and I get the great privilege of advocating for the users every day. And I get to have these conversations with all of our engineering folks, with Drew and Jacob and with Alexander about, what should we be doing? And you'd be surprised at how many quality of life things that we can just pick up and sort of be like, all right, this seems pretty easy. Spoiler alert, there's nothing easy left. It's all very hard. As I mentioned earlier with the core content stuff, we do use Slate for that. This was the first year we actually used Slate for what it was built for. We did it in a Slate hosted application. We sent out decisions. It was like, why didn't we do this 4 years ago, Chris?
Because whoever I inherited from was using person scoped forms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have to, so we try to, that may not be innovative or creative. It's not, but it's the fact that we decided to like, yeah, let's actually just do what we was meant to do. I don't think I actually answered the question, but it's fine. I think it's fine.
I mean, the fact that now the summit application is technically 3 to 4 applications in one. That's pretty innovative in my mind. It can be better, but it's step
It'll
one.
be better next year. But no, we were proud of it. We were actually quite proud of it. And
I mean, the shark confetti alone, I feel really generated a lot of excitement.
do you know how last minute that was?
I loved it. A
It was
plus.
literally the day before. So this is some behind the scenes for you. This year, we were an entire month ahead of where we were last year. And Matt Burris, who's our director of innovation, was kind of like, do you have a schedule yet? And I said, yeah, mostly. And he's like, great, I want to see it. Let's get it approved. I was like, no problem. So got it approved. We were going to release decisions the next day. And it was Chris and Stephanie Shukis who were like, we should have confetti, but it can't just be normal confetti. It has to be Slate confetti. So we thought about sharks and poker chips. And we were like, all right, well, we still have to get these out like tomorrow. So who are we going to inconvenience to get this done? And it's one of our wonderful new employees who works in our marketing department, Marie. Shout out to Marie. She's excellent. Got it together in like 20 minutes. Multiple iterations we had to go through. And so some folks got sharks, some folks got poker chips, new feature request, and multiple kinds of confetti in one decision.
Oh man.
With that in feedback. But that had a really fast turnaround time. I was very impressed with our folks.
I already have ideas for next year. It's horseshoes, cowboy hats, going the whole thing again.
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out to, I think you said it was Marie. I got the poker chips, and I definitely laughed out loud that actually happened.
Yeah, Marie is wonderful. We have put so much on her plate. I think she is one of the few people who literally just hit the ground running. Like the moment she started, we were like, here's the list of 18 things we need. And also just, she works for Joanna, and so big shout outs to Joanna who makes Summit happen. Um, she is like the thing that keeps us all moving in the same direction, mostly by threatening us with things called deadlines. What's that about?
But I like what you said, and I think it's resonated with a lot of the interviews I've done for the podcast already, is the overlap between innovation and empathy. Whether you want to make something better for the prospective students, current students, your fellow staff members, the community, you're creating these pieces to make people's lives better. And that's definitely a thread I have found, at least in the innovation so far. And oftentimes with innovation, and maybe Chris can speak to this, these custom bespoke projects, it comes with complexity. And what do you think are what are some of the common challenges you see when institutions try to branch out like this, and how can they overcome those barriers?
I think a big one that comes to mind is their level of knowledge of it. So, we can build crazy, wild, fun ideas any day, but at the end of the day, they are the ones who need to maintain it. And so one thing I always tell people when I'm giving them, liquid markup solutions, for instance, is be sure you actually know what this is doing. Because if you leave, will your next person know what this actually says? And it's a sad fact of life that higher ed is a constantly revolving door. And so we want to make sure that teams are set up correctly, appropriately enough to be able to, iterate their own versions through the different people that might be looking at it. Not enough schools do this in my mind. Documentation.
Yep.
You need to do a whole lot of documentation. Like, I don't know if schools out there are using this, but Scribe is amazing for just noting what you're doing. Like whenever I'm creating new documentation, for instance, I turn Scribe on. I'm like, just note every single button I click. Tell me what I'm doing. And then I just go through it. I'm like, oh, cool. It takes, 10 clicks to do this. Great. Let's note this down. We're doing this here. Great. So that's definitely one big thing there. The other big thing that I think is a challenge that some schools see is that Slate administrators, Slate captains, whatever you want to call them, are overburdened, overworked with so many different projects and so many different tasks. So if, counselor A hears something that from their friend that they want to bring to their institution, and it's not a top level priority, they're going to wait days, months, weeks, years to see that come to life. And so one thing that I think a lot of the schools should possibly try to do is consider expanding the level of permissions that they give to their staff members who have interests. Obviously, this means that they need to have robust internal training programs. I'm not saying, give your random counselor full administrative access permissions without them knowing anything in Slate, but, trust them. Give them the agency to learn, to grow. Um, I sat on a presentation at Summit last year, um, by Gonzaga, and Loyola Chicago, where essentially they talked about how, um, they created an internal configurable joins training program for their staff. And so they ran every single counselor through that program, and those who graduated got to get that little badge added to their profiles, got to add it to their LinkedIn's, got to, say, I am a CJ expert. And, their director of ops essentially said, like, hey, if you end up going out into the world trying to look for another Slate job, I will recommend you for configurable joins for your work there. I mean, that's amazing that they're giving them that level of trust, that level of agency to do what they're doing. And I just wish more schools would do that. That being said, that was a standing room only session, so hopefully there are more schools now doing that.
Trust is such an interesting thing that you bring up because we encounter this all the time, right? Because we're interacting with the community. Katie, in your role as a consultant, you're also seeing a lot of different people. And the automatic assumption is I can't trust them and I have to restrict everyone's permissions. And I get that. Like, as someone who was in the sandbox, I'm like, no, I don't want to play nicely with my friends. They're not even my friends. They don't even go here. Um, and it's just everything works better with trust. Things
Mhm.
get easier. You find that users are more empowered. And that's when, to sort of Chris's point, and I think to yours also, David, that is where innovation comes from. It comes from trust. It comes from empowerment. It comes from giving people the freedom to be creative.
Mhm.
And, to reiterate, not without limits, not unreasonably. Protect your data. I get it. But I'm right there with Chris. Trust is a beautiful thing when you see it, just out in the wild.
Well, I love that because, I think, as both of you are talking about, like bandwidth at an institution is very, very real. And a lot of the times you can fall behind on innovation because you're keeping the ship running, And something that I was genuinely like 5 years ago sat down and taught because I felt really, really protective over the things that I was doing full time at an institution in Slate. I was like, this is my job. This is what I'm doing. No, I'm not going to train you on events. Like a half a decade ago, I was that person. And to bring Paula Schaefer Riley up for the second time and probably not last this podcast, she sat me down and was like, Katie, keep in mind when you train other people on what you're doing, like you can go on then to do cooler things. And that was such a light bulb moment for me that I've held that so, so, so dearly to me. Because it really changed how I thought about, teaching other people, sharing my knowledge. Like, yes, you know what? You create the request for information form. Like, I have some custom data set stuff to go do. And I just want to echo that, opening up knowledge and information and creativity to the whole team brings everybody to the next level.
To quote Matthew Chris, a rising tide raises all boats, or something like that.
I like the colloquialisms.
For the folks who are maybe getting that door opened or even just a window, what are some of the introductory and even advanced features in Slate that institutions can get started with? Maybe they're often overlooked, but could really enable some of these creative projects.
It's kind of interesting because I think about schools who are implementing, and you tend to see very similar patterns in where this goes. And that's because we at Technolutions tell you that this is kind of how you're supposed to do it. But for example, fields and prompts. Start with forms, start with events, start with these easy things that you can be using right now, even while you're still developing other things. That's a very common approach. And then we see schools like Katie's former institution, where one of the first things I was asked about is like, I need to build entities to store all of this different information. And I was like, whoa, I'm not sure we're ready for entities yet. But they did it. Like they did it from the beginning, and it ended up being a very successful project. Um, that's typically not common. We don't really see that, but schools can do it.
We came
And
in with a vision.
Is this why you're so fascinated by entities, Katie?
I love entities. I think whatever. Yes and no, but it's certainly one of my villain origin stories.
oh, absolutely. I think, people who are implementing and approaching Slate for the first time, it's definitely about being open and honest with yourself about what your expectations are and how you can do this. But, Katie's previous answer of kind of you're focused on running the ship, so you don't necessarily have time to be creative. Um, Implementation is actually kind of an interesting time where you can be creative a little bit. If you have the right resources in place, if you have the right support, you can do some of the cool things that you'll see at Summit. I once had a school who they were implementing, and Summit was like 4 months away. And I was like, oh my God, are you going to go to Summit? And she was like, no, we're not going to go to Summit. And I said, why not? And the answer I got was, well, because, we're too new. Like, we just started this. Like, how is this going to help us? And I said, okay. They did not go to Summit that year. But my pushback on that is always go see what people are doing, see what's possible. There are people there who are in the beginning of it, and you will learn things from them. You can also see what's possible in years 2, 3, 4. You can be creative from the beginning. And in fact, I think building a Slate instance is inherently a creative challenge because the box that people want to put themselves in is how do I recreate what I had before? No, that is not the challenge. That is not the assignment. It is how can you innovate? How can you make your processes better to work for you as you want to work? And so from the get, we challenge you to be creative and to think outside of the box because that's going to end up with a better work product for everybody involved. That's the goal, right?
No, that's great. And I've gotten snippets during the community conversations and those kinds of places, which fully recommend for great ideas and fun Katie jokes as well. But I do want to know, what are some of your favorite creative uses you've done and you've seen others do in Slate?
Oh man.
So many.
Man, I'm just gonna start talking because I am really excited about a couple things I've done recently. So this is just like sheer self-promotion, which is rude, but I would never let that stop me.
That's very true.
Wake up, y'all. Here's a Slate compound to look at. So I've done a couple things lately that I'm just like hyped about. I know I've been talking a lot about like making dashboards clickable. That was just like a fun little side project, as we've been saying. I like to try and solve problems that I faced as a counselor 5, 6, 7 years ago because now I know more Slate than I did then. And like, I want to make past Katie's life better and like future counselors' lives better. So that's so much of the motivation. But I will tell you all that since Summit Decisions at time of recording came out very recently, I am presenting in Vegas this year with Lloyd, who is, we can all agree, just like the rock star of the Slate community.
I love Lloyd. Lloyd is the best.
The
And
best.
for those who don't know who Lloyd is, let's introduce Lloyd a little bit.
That
Lloyd
doesn't
Lentz
need to
from
happen.
McAllister Advancement. He is genuinely one of the nicest humans, also one of the most creative and innovative humans in the Slate sphere. We mentioned him on a different podcast a long time ago, and he sent Katie and I an email that legitimately made both of us sob. It was so beautiful that we were just overcome with emotion. And like this is the Slate community, right? Like these are the people we get to work with. And we were just texting each other back and forth. I was like, Katie, check your email.
It's a great day.
I cried.
So Lloyd is like can I, not to be weird, like a little bit of a Slate hero of mine. So the fact that we are collaborating, first off, like brings such joy to me. But he and I collaborated to invent something brand new in Slate using all default functionality. We're going to teach everybody how to have successful, functional, working, live, real-time auctions hosted in Slate. It's built for advancement. I'm sure there's a ton of applications for it, but I have stretched my brain to the maximum on this build, and I am so proud of it.
I will say publicly that that was the only session this year that I gave full marks to.
Oh my gosh.
It's so true. It's so true. Um, and to pull back the curtain a little bit, there are different categories, and everything can get like from a 1 to a 10. And typically, what we see is like if you get above a 6, you did great. That was amazing. Um, and like we're all very tough scorers because we have to be. There are so many amazing proposals, and that was Chris's only 10 of the year, which
Oh,
I was like, that's remarkable.
Yeah,
Uh,
considering most of mine were 5s and 4s. So yeah.
well, I'm very touched to hear that, and I
I
am.
didn't give Katie a 10. I will also really admit that. I did
No
not give
one
Katie a
else gave
10.
her anything above an 8. I was the only 10.
That's fine, and we definitely won't chat about that later.
I'm gonna say that was our
Um,
very nice compliment, and then just like, but everyone else, no, just not.
it's,
7,
here's
8,
here's how I
maybe.
stay balanced is my friends.
Just, 8 means it's a great presentation. It's going to go really well. 10 means it's a perfect proposal. There's nothing I can find at fault with it.
I didn't give any 10s.
He's very proud of that for some reason.
I
For some reason.
am very proud. I've been doing this. One of the few people who has actually been on core content. Well, I've been on it the longest.
Mhm.
Uh, I inherited it from other people way back when, but I've just seen it through so many iterations, and it's great. But yes, Kate, it's a very exciting session, Katie. You should be proud.
I'm very hyped about it. So that's my personal plug for my new favorite project.
It's
I
amazing.
think for me, some of my creative use cases I've seen, or the ones that I've done, um, would be one of the ones I've done, I'll start there. Ticketing system. So with that one, I actually took an idea that I got from John Cherry, and I tried to implement what he did in Ohio for a ticketing system. So essentially, have like a help desk sort of scenario where people can get text notifications saying, "Hey, your number is being called, in 10 minutes. Please come back," etc. Works amazing. It's so cool. John Cherry, brilliant mind out there. Another one that I did was an inventory system I mentioned earlier. That was spawned through the Facebook group because Alex Sims posted from Mississippi State
Mhm.
posted his own version of it, and I was like, I like it. Let's make
Got
this
it done.
better. Let's make it better. And so did that, but obviously he just used a data set. I did data set with 4 entities, I believe, made it a whole lot better, which coincidentally has spawned for this upcoming summit another session hosted by Eric from American University of Paris and John Rowan from Reworkflow. We're going to do their version, which is spawned off of my version, which is spawned off of Alex's version. So it's great to see, how we are copying and taking other people's ideas and making it our own and better in that sense. A non-work creative use case I've really liked and seen with Slate is using Slate to review certain items. So Paul Tarchin out there, he created a pizza review workflow. That's one thing that I've known that's kind of weird and wacky out there. I know Katie on this call has done one for pumpkin beer.
Oh,
I was
that's
gonna
coming. Don't
say,
worry about it.
Yeah,
That's
I've
coming.
done one for books that I've read. I know Louise has done another one as well to mimic Goodreads. So there's cool stuff out there that, definitely makes you sit back and go, huh, I didn't know Slate could do that.
I planned my wedding in Slate.
That's true.
That's definitely probably the more unique one I've heard, is planning your wedding out of Slate.
And it's pre-event spaces as well.
Mhm.
It was cool. It was you had a portal and communications and all this stuff. Like it was great.
I mean, it
Uh,
definitely deeply impacts our personal lives too. When we're not working, Katie was here, I don't know, for one of many occasions. And I was like, it was like a Christmas survey. It was like, what do you want to do on Christmas Day?
mhm,
And
mhm.
because we did an orphan Christmas thing where just a bunch of friends got together. And on my form, I was like, yes, Katie, I'm aware that my branding is broken.
I offered to
And
fix it.
Katie offered to fix it
Empathy
twice.
and innovation.
And I was like, all right, there we go.
I do we have had Slate parties. It was my 10-year Slate anniversary. And I gathered up some of my favorite members of Technolutions, put them into my house, and we did a tasting of 13 pumpkin beers, which is
Too many pumpkin beers.
oh, I miscalculated how much pumpkin beer the human body should consume. Um, but it did end with the slate form where everyone had to guess the brewery with tasting notes, like who made what beer and rate it. And it was a great celebration, but I will not be drinking a pumpkin beer for another 10 years.
So Sarah Uvino, who's one of our technical engineers, shout out to Sarah. Um, she would like do her, and they were like tasting glasses. We weren't downing like full bottles of.
Oh no, yes, it was tasting glasses.
But Sarah would finish like her tiny taste and would just make me drink them when she was done. And I was like, you can't give this to your own husband. Like, why do I have to do this? But it was great. It was great. I would like to admit that my score was 0 out of 13. Pretty
I
sure.
did not take the quiz because I knew the answers, but I suspect I would have gotten right around 0.
Uh, Paula Schaefer Riley, I'm sure, did the best.
She did. She won pumpkin beer. The prize was she had to take the pumpkin beers, so blessing and a curse there.
This is one of those situations where I'm like thankful I don't live in Connecticut because I would have been there. But
Definitely
I
would have.
yeah, I saw that form before the party, and I was sworn to secrecy to not
Mhm.
share it with Cody, the answers.
It was
Uh,
very serious.
I was like,
So you
how is
did.
this so serious? No, because it was a joke to me. It's like you're just drinking pumpkin beers and just ranking them. This should be easy.
Oh,
No.
it was anything but easy. Um, oof, somewhere around like 7, you're just kind of like, we need to stop. Did we? No.
No. I mean, we took an intermission. I think I worry what everyone listening to this podcast has learned about me today. It's
It's called dedication.
but it was such a creative use of Slate of like, you know what? How can you have your 10-year Slate anniversary without, a Slate form, as they say?
A lot of wonderful and great takeaways there. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Before you wrap up, every artisan leaves their mark. So in the Smith signature, I'll ask a quick question so you can all just stamp your personal hallmark on today's conversation. What's one tool, digital or otherwise, that you rely on daily to keep your work running smoothly?
Slate.
Oh, that's so true.
Oh, wow. For me, it's Notion, which is our project management software. Um, I should say, actually, my real answer to this question, digital or otherwise, it's Chris Kwan.
Mm,
It's
mhm.
my answer is actually Chris Kwan. So I'm just gonna leave that at that one.
I have a
Slate.
small doll of Alexander who watches over me on my desk. Really feel like he supervises my builds and it's really keeps me on task personally.
There's a great origin story with that one too.
There is. That might be another episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have about 8 episodes worth of content, so every month we'll just have you on. It'll be fine.
The one where Chris randomly links 2 people together to exchange gifts.
Hmm hmm
No, but seriously, Slate is honestly the tool that I rely on daily to keep my work running, especially this time of the year with Summit. 90% of the work I do is in Slate. The other 10% would be a mixture of a Google Sheet, which it's Google Sheet, whatever. And then also in Notion as well. So those those three platforms are kind of
Don't
important to me
forget
right
about
now.
me annoying you via Teams.
I don't rely on
This is
that
cool.
daily. Don't rely on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tool, yeah, sure.
How else are you gonna roll? So
This is twice I've gotten David to like disappear in laughter. I
I
love it.
know. It's when David leans out of laughing that I feel like we've really accomplished what we're here for.
I would like you to know, David, we did, after we did our practice run, there was definitely a group chat where I was like, I don't think he was prepared for us.
I know. He's like, rapid fire, guys. And we're like, here's my doll.
Let's keep going.
So, what has caught your attention and sparked creativity or innovation for you?
The community.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's definitely the community. I think it's also sort of things we're doing for Summit. I'm so excited about so much stuff that's coming. Yeah, it's great. Um, and yeah, community.
And I think pain points are very motivating to me to think like, okay, great, like this didn't work, what will for you? Like let's figure out something new. It's just hearing what people don't like, what's gone wrong, and cool, let's make it better.
I think we can summarize that as Katie enjoys pain.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
That's the cold open for the episode. Okay. So, if you were starting your career today, what's one piece of advice that you would give your younger self?
That younger Katie needed to understand that no is a full sentence. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I would say find your community outside of your school.
Mm.
When I was in admissions, I was so siloed what I was doing that now that I know there's this massive community out there, it's phenomenal. Like I have my own separate group chat outside of my Technolutions family, which is just my other family. We call it the Power group, or no, we call it something else now. But that's what we
Diamond's
call
treasured colleagues.
those Pearl Trade, whatever. Okay, it's
Yes.
it's that group, and that particular group keeps me inspired. They keep me going whenever it gets a little weird and hard. When Cody's pissed at me about not getting stuff done, I go to that group and like, hey, Katie's in that group. Like, Katie, Cody's being mean to me. Fix it. So
And I stay
it's
right out of that.
it's it's great. No, but definitely find your community.
Wait, can I mean, I have two things to append to that in our rapid fire. I just have more to say on that. Can I say that Power Chat includes Eric Hoffpower and Megan Story because they deserve to be shouted out all of the time for being phenomenal problem solvers and colleagues and humans.
So I'm going to give my answer, and then I'm going to give what was supposed to be Chris's original answer to this question
Thank you.
because it's fantastic.
Hmm.
My answer to this question is it's always be unabashedly yourself. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. I spent a long time not really embracing my personality in my professional space, because that was like, seemed like the right thing to do, and it's not. And so now I think, and Chris gets to see this a lot, and mostly Chris, because I don't work as closely with Katie in a non-personal level. Um, I don't hide who I am at all. I am very much all or nothing. I am the crazy, sassy, sometimes kind of snarky, mean person.
Wonderful.
You're you.
And I embrace that. So that's my answer. Chris's original answer, which is incredible, is imposter syndrome is real and we need to get over it.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think it's important
cannot
for
echo
everyone to
that
hear
one
that.
enough. It's so real. And I
Yeah.
think at least the three of us have definitely suffered from that or are suffering from that at different points.
Mhm.
Daily.
We talk about that all the time of like, my gosh, it's hard. I think everyone has a lot of self-doubt and, learning to live with the imposter syndrome is part of being human.
It's just part of those things where like every day I'm like, I have a really simple question, which is kind of dumb. Should I actually still be here? But you are because there's you have a benefit, you have a purpose, you are here for a reason. You don't need to know everything, but you need to know how to ask those questions. And that's how you get out of your imposter syndrome phase. Definitely had it a whole lot a couple years ago. I think like 2 years ago, I had it every single day when I was questioning, like, why was I hired to work here? I don't know this product at all.
If you don't ask yourself that like once a week, do you even work in Slate though? Like
Yeah.
realistically.
It's
Yeah, I mean,
hard. It's a hard thing. And, I think, especially because
just
we're surrounded by so many smart people who do so many amazing things. That's within Technolutions, that's outside of Technolutions, it's within the community. It's sort of just like, how do you do anything? And should we be doing anything? And, David, I think you're a great example of this too, because you totally put yourself out there and you're like, this is my mission, this is what I believe in, and I'm going to drag you along for the ride, whether you want to or not. And everyone is kind of like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah, let's go.
But you look at, you're sort of like, should I be putting myself out there more? Should I really be kind of espousing my philosophy for how to slate, how to exist within this space? And like that's really admirable. And I think we should all get on board with these kinds of things.
I'm predicting, because of David, in 2 or 3 years, we will see at least one more Slate how-to book out there.
I would
Ooh,
love
okay.
that. That would be great.
I think you're the first and only,
What a legacy.
which is like a real space to be in. Like that is actually super cool. And Chris actually has read your book too.
Oh, well, thank you for purchasing
Right,
and looking
it's
at
right
it.
here.
Oh man.
I have it. Read the whole thing.
Although I do have to say the cover art, it gives me a little bit like Atlas Shrugged and Rand vibes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was not going for
No,
that.
it's fine. I have suffered through Ayn Rand. No, I think it's so cool that you actually put a whole bunch of yourself into a book. Like
Yes.
no one else has done that though. And you were like, I'm just going after it. And so I imagine, like you perhaps sometimes have suffered from like imposter syndrome in your life, and like you were just killing it though.
If you want to have hourly imposter syndrome, I'm going to write a book, and this is a good idea. Or I'm going to start a podcast, and this is a good idea. It is crippling.
How did you decide to write the book? Like that? Because
we interviewing
we've
you.
gotten snippets of sort of your philosophy through different summit proposals that we've read from you, and I think community will sort of have a better chance to know some of this as Slate Presents comes into sort of being in the next few weeks. But like, how did you decide like this is the thing that I'm gonna do?
Engagement scoring, predictive modeling. There's people doing it. Obviously, there was not a lot of how-to material out there though. So when I did it, I'm just like, oh, I'll write some articles, put that out. And then when I was with Beyond, that kind of changed into like the workshops. And I had all the content written. I was going to try to release it with them, and then stopped working there. So that was no longer a thing. So I was just like, oh, I'll just publish. No, it was fun. As you say, pouring myself into all the stupid little cartoons and everything. So it's definitely it's definitely a take on a Slate book. So it was a lot of fun.
I will say I did really enjoy your Slate Shark Summit little video.
Yes.
Of all your AI creations, that was the one I enjoyed the most.
Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed that.
The content chat actually all really enjoyed that. We don't see stuff like this like basically ever. So you're definitely giving us a lot of life and what is possible for like how you present yourself and how you embrace being part of this community. So I love that.
Me too. I mean, we've said community 800 times, and we should say it 800 more. And David, I think you do such a great job having a voice and thinking creatively, and we would be remiss to not talk about your contributions while talking about creative uses of Slate.
Well, thank you. I'll just be sure to timestamp that and cut that, so thank you.
You essentially created your own version of Predict.
Which we couldn't even succeed in. Like, we did not do Predict great.
Which means, and that is innovative. beyond that, I mean, it's inside of your book, but it is truly innovative that you were able to master, in some way, predict.
So you just copy paste. I'll suitcase it to you. You'll just build it out. You have a couple months until Summit to announce it, and it'll be fine.
I will say part of why some of the proposals we picked for Slate Presents got picked for Slate Presents specifically is because we wanted them recorded. Because yes, like great. I love people wanting to present on the big stage. That's lovely. But those don't get recorded. It's kind of a one and done, and you can get like a PowerPoint, but you don't necessarily have the context of this PowerPoint slide. And so some of them were like, no, this needs to be recorded so we can have it forever. And so that was sort of part of some of our calculus as well when we were reading through 290 some odd.
290?
It was
260 something.
260. But we also then
Oh, if
did
it's
the
just 260.
stuff and then affinity group stuff. So it was a lot.
It's roughly around 500 total. It's fine. Schools read more than that.
I think we have one last question right now.
do.
Definitely gone way over.
Yeah.
What is one project, goal, or aspiration you have on the block to work on?
When we did the rehearsal for this, I was like, I'm gonna build a data set for CBOs and a child CBO counselor data set, and then a portal like slate.org. And I did that. I'm thrilled to say I did that in the last 2 weeks. So haha. But what I am most excited about in this moment is actually a client call that I had yesterday where they essentially said okay, Katie, we don't like our dashboard reports when we log in. We don't know what we want them to look like, but we know it's not this. So have at it. And I was like, you want me to just build what I think you would like and you will love it? And they were like, yes. So I'm just thrilled to have this creative control in the logging and Slate experience. I am so excited about it.
Also, not at all surprised that someone would give you the keys to their Slate instance and just be like, yeah, build it, it's fine.
I try. I mean, I do so much of the teaching and co-leading Slate that I don't get handed keys and creative control frequently, which of course is par for the course. That's the job. I love it. But I'm really, really excited that I get to challenge myself on this.
Stuff that we're working on in the office, stuff that so we're about to dive into a bunch of we actually have started a bunch of the event spaces development to get that going, which has been super exciting. Alexander's working on Reader AI right now, which I also love. And there's been a lot of discussions about responsible AI and what sort of that really means. I think there's been a lot of trying to also educate that there's a difference between AI and automation. These two things are not the same. Like a lot of stuff you can do with rules, that's automation. And some folks will pass that off as AI, and it's like that's not the case, but sort of we do have this powerful tool at our disposal, and how do we teach people to use it responsibly? How do we hold ourselves accountable and responsible for these kinds of things? So that's super cool. And then on a personal note, Nathan Galt, who was my original training manager almost 7 years ago, before he left for a school, taught me that I should try to learn one new thing every day. And I've tried to live in that mindset ever since. If I've learned at least one new thing, it's been an okay day.
A couple weeks ago, he learned about Slate Share. So, yeah.
I mean, that was a great community conversation.
Did you know that you can find share in the reader?
See, I blew his mind when I told him that. It's great.
I did not remember that at all.
I'll just say, things I'm working on. I think one thing is picking Robin Lancaster's brain. So he's one of our technical engineers, but he's currently teaching internally, improving our knowledge on SQL. And so that's one thing I'm really focusing on right now, is improving my own SQL knowledge. Because, like Katie said earlier, no formal computer background history major here. Yeah, I gotta learn what I can. Beyond that, I've said this for like 3 months now. I still just haven't finished because I haven't had time to finish it because of Cody.
You're
My
welcome.
March Madness bracket. It's almost March. I need to finish that. It's in Slate. It's 3 data sets with related data set rows, and they're all talking to each other so that you can have that perfect bracket. You can have a pool, all that great stuff as well, and associate scores. Hopefully that'll be done.
You need to share that because, as you may or may not remember, we do a March Madness competition every year.
Yeah, we have one in forms already, fully ready, but data sets.
But it'll
I
be
came
better.
so close to winning last year. I was devastated when I didn't. I also know absolutely nothing about college basketball.
Yeah.
Don't. I know that's shocking to everyone that I don't know things about sports.
If the listeners wanted to reach out to you about working with you, maybe Katie, or giving you the keys to their instance of Slate, or connect with you about what you all talked about today, where's the best place to message you? And I'll be sure to add that to the notes.
Oh, I'm very findable. I mean, like there is going through the official Parish Group website, RFI. But I am findable on the community forums, on the Slate Slack channel. I've had people Facebook message me. I am on my email every second of every day. I'm out there. It's all good.
Basically, same. I mean, I am actually not part of the Slack channel. I should probably join that.
I've Slacked you. It didn't work.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, community forums, email. I'm findable also in the Facebook group, as long as you recognize that I work for Technolutions, I suppose. Because unlike Chris, I never say it.
You say it as a follow-up comment,
I
and
say
I
it as a
find it
follow-up
extremely
comment.
endearing.
A little bit of a troll and feedback. I have to own up to that. Yeah, you can find me in any of those places, but if it's in feedback, I'll always find it.
Community forums is where you'll find me.
Yeah, I don't think you even needed to say that. People just know. That's fine. It was so great chatting and getting to know you all better. Like I said, it's so wonderful to have the Slate celebrities on the podcast. Thank you for being wonderful guests and wonderful members of the community. And thank you for taking the time to share your experiences and insights with us. Your journey and your expertise have given us a lot to think about. And thanks again for joining me on the show.
Thank you.
Ew.
This is the Blueprint Breakdowns, your quick reference guide after a discussion or chapter. Here, we extract the essentials, highlight key points, and help you carry clear takeaways back to your daily work. No guesswork needed. Now let's break the interview down. What are the key takeaways from today's conversation with Cody, Christopher, and Katie? The power of community in Slate. Our guests emphasized how the Slate community plays a critical role in fostering innovation and creativity. Whether through Facebook groups, conferences, or direct collaboration, the community continuously inspires new solutions. If you're using Slate, tap into the community. There are invaluable resources and connections that can help you unlock new ways of thinking. 2. Innovation stems from necessity. A recurring theme was that some of the most innovative uses of Slate emerged from pain points and inefficiencies. Whether it's creating inventory management systems, counselor toolkits, or even auction platforms. The most effective solutions start by addressing specific user challenges. Identify what isn't working in your workflow. Then, leverage Slate's flexibility and its architecture to build a tailored solution. 3. Trust and empowerment breed creativity. Restricting access to Slate's powerful features can limit an institution's ability to evolve. Training and empowering staff to experiment with configurable joins, workflows, and entities can lead to breakthroughs in efficiency. Instead of gatekeeping, invest in education and structured training programs to cultivate an internal teams of Slate innovators. 4. Slate can be used for almost anything. Beyond admissions, Slate's capabilities extend into event management, advancement, student success, and even unconventional applications like planning weddings and reviewing beer. The adaptability of the platform means the only real limitation is creativity. Explore beyond traditional uses. If you can dream it, there is likely a way to build it in Slate. Overcoming imposter syndrome. Many in the Slate community experience imposter syndrome, but the key is to ask questions, stay engaged, and lean on the network of users who have been where you are. You don't have to know everything. The best Slate experts started by learning, testing, and iterating. That's it for this blueprint breakdown. I hope you found these insights helpful and feel inspired to bring new ideas to your own Slate environment. For those watching the video or willing just to see our next mascot, I need a name for my portal plier for our segment, The Consultant Cadre. Send me an email at theinnovationforagepodcast@gmail.com or find me on the socials like LinkedIn and Instagram to comment your suggestion. As always, I'll send the ebook of The Innovation Forge to all winning name submitters. If you enjoyed today's episode, please grow the guild by rating and reviewing the Innovation Forge podcast or sharing it with a colleague who needs to hear about these creative crossovers in education. The best review or comment every month will get an ebook of my book, of course. Particularly great ones will also be featured on future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. Remember to strike true and let's forge something extraordinary together.